All right. I don't know how this story came out, but Pat McAfee had Austin Rivers on his show. And I think they were talking about how Pat Riley labeled Tyler Hero fragile. Now, he did say nobody works harder, but he said he's fragile because he's fragile. He doesn't play more than, 60 games. And then I think the conversation morphed into, well, how many NBA players could play in the NFL or vice versa? And then all of a sudden it's McAfee, who's a punter, and talking about the toughness of football players and versatility and whatever else, and Austin Rivers, who used to play basketball. Our good buddy Ross Tucker has an opinion on this, the former offensive lineman and host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. All right, what do you make of this debate? I guess I'll say that in parentheses.
Well, it's interesting, Dan, because I thought on the one hand, I think Austin Rivers was right. On the other hand, I thought he was very, very wrong. Where I think he got it right is I do think more guys in the NBA could play in the NFL than NFL guys play in the NBA, right? Like if we took every guy, Dan, right, and had them for 2 years, every NFL guy for 2 years just trained to be an NBA player, not many of those guys are making it. I mean, and not many, if any, right? Whereas if you took every NBA guy and just for 2 years, they focused on professional football, I think several of those guys would make it. And the reason why I say that is I think in general, the NBA guys are probably better athletes. I mean, you think about Anthony Edwards at 6'6", Zion, however tall he is, LeBron at 6'8". You watch the way those guys move on the court. There aren't a lot of NFL guys between 6'5" to even if you took just the 6'2" to 6'4" guys, the way the body control of the NBA guys that are 6'2" to 6'5", it's really, I mean, they're like point guards. It's really impressive. I don't know that there's a lot of NFL guys 6'2" to 6'5" that can match that.
Okay, but it sounds like you're agreeing with Austin Rivers.
I'm agreeing that more NBA guys could play in the NFL than vice versa. But when he said, I can take 30 guys from the NBA right now and put them in the NFL, definitely not. First of all, he said, it's not that hard. You just run a route, catch the ball, and you get north and south. Holy Dan, what he doesn't realize is most NBA guys that think they could play wide receiver or whatever, they would not get off the line of scrimmage, right? Like Patrick Surtain or Jalen Ramsey, they would basically choke those guys out at the line of scrimmage, right? Like they've never had someone come up and bump and run them, press man coverage.
But they would have 2 years. They would have two. So I have Anthony Edwards flanked out right, and you're going to have Patrick Surtain against Anthony Edwards, and you think you have the advantage over him?
Yes.
Oh, my God. You're crazy.
Right. Tomorrow, if they did it tomorrow?
No, he's got 2 years to prepare. You said if we gave them 2 years to prepare.
No, that's what I'm saying. If they had 2 years, that's a totally different deal.
Well, no, I'm giving everybody 2 years. Patrick Surtain, 2 years to play in the NBA. Anthony Edwards, 2 years to play in the NBA or NFL.
Yeah. No. And that's where I agree with Austin Rivers.
Okay.
He made it sound like, Dan, they could do it tomorrow.
Okay.
He's like, I could take 30 guys from the NBA and they could play NFL football tomorrow. And there's just no way. It's just way more complicated. They just don't know what they're doing. And I think that they would have a really tough time with the collision aspect of it and the level of physicality. But if Anthony Edwards, have you seen Anthony Edwards Pop Warner highlights, Dan? They're like the greatest things I've ever seen. When I watch a Timberwolves game now, and I'm not like a huge NBA guy, but when I watch a Timberwolves game, all I can think about is Anthony Edwards playing football instead of, it's the same thing with Zion. Like I just want Zion or LeBron. Like when I watch these guys, I just dream of them having played football instead.
Well, I think this comes down to toughness too, because, I've had football players say, I said, what if Shaq played? Oh, we'd kill him. We would have so much leverage. Oh, he wouldn't be anything. I said, as a nose tackle, if I put Shaq at nose tackle, he wouldn't be impactful. If I put LeBron at tight end, oh, yeah, we'd hit him once. Everything has to do with we're so much tougher. That's really what this is based on. We're tougher. They're going to get hit. They're going to fold like a lawn chair.
Yeah, but that's not all of them. I mean, we saw what Jimmy Graham did. We saw what Antonio Gates did. Now, I will say this. Everybody always brings up those two names like I just did.
Do you
You know
think
this
that
happens like 5 times a year
do you think
where
NBA
they'll
players
take a college basketball guy from a mid-major or somewhere who's maybe like a European pro basketball. He's not an NBA guy. 95% of those guys never make it, right? Like just because you're 6'6" and you're athletic doesn't mean you're going to be an NFL tight end. Jimmy and Gates were the exceptions, but I do think look, LeBron, if you watch LeBron's high school football highlights, he can take a hit. He can play like the guys I've seen play football, especially like LeBron and Anthony Edwards. I've watched those guys play football. They could take the physicality of it, but listen, they make more money in the NBA. It's a better, like, I totally get
but
why they're playing NBA.
Okay, but Antonio Gates and Jimmy Graham didn't even play football when they were in college, right?
Correct.
Yeah. But they became very, very good at football. They played basketball.
Which is why, look,
it doesn't happen the other way around, right?
And you're 1,000% correct. Like every NFL guy, like Keon Coleman, who just got drafted by the Bills. He was a 4-star basketball recruit. T. Higgins was really good. They weren't NBA caliber guys. I'm like, if they were NBA caliber guys,
they
would have kept playing basketball.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's more money and, your career longevity. If you said, hey, I can be a pro football player or pro basketball player, I'm going to take basketball.
Yes. Almost like I've never. So here's the thing. Like I know for a fact, Dan, the Eagles, right? They have a scout that I think a big part of his job is looking at college basketball players and seeing if whether or not they could project to maybe getting a shot in the NFL. There's no NBA scouts watching a college football game, looking at the left guard thinking, man, maybe he could be our 3 next year. Maybe he could be our small 4. It doesn't work the other way.
Thanks for settling that if you did. Great to talk to you as always. Thanks, bud.
Hey, my pleasure. I'm here to help.
Ross Tucker. He's already put his name in the hat to replace me on the program, the Ross Tucker podcast.